What is up, y'all? Welcome on back to part 6 of my Attack on Titan deep dive series. This is a 10-part series where I am diving into literally anything and everything Attack on Titan. So if you have not caught up through season 4, this episode of the deep dive series, I am diving into the final chapters, part 1. So there's 2 specials at the very end of the series, which is the final chapters, part 1 and part 2. I am going to split these up into their own episodes. So if you have not watched through the final chapters part 1, this is your chance to push pause and then come back once you have caught up, because there will be full spoilers from this point forward of the final chapters part 1. Now, initially I was going to combine the final chapters into one long episode, but I thought that'd be a disservice to both of these chapters, which are really, really fucking good. I at the time that they originally got released or announced and then released, I was very critical of them splitting up the final season into what is essentially 4 parts. It felt like they were just milking this series dry for everything that it is. And now, granted, I get it. It makes a lot of money, but watching special 1 and special 2, I'm not going to give you any spoilers for the second part, but after watching these 2 final chapters, I see why they did it. I see why and where they split the chapters and separated it from the final season itself, and it makes sense. I'm not gonna lie. I hate that it took like 10 years to watch the fucking final season, but it is what it is. I am going to be doing this episode similar to the last couple of episodes, where I will be breaking down a majority of the main characters from part 1 of the final chapters. Now, part 2, I'm going to be saving a majority of the characters for that one, because that's the conclusion of the series, and I like to try to hit notes on all the major characters of part 2 and the series. But fret not, because we have 2 episodes after these next 2 episodes into the final chapters, where we are going to be breaking down the legacy of the series and then talking about our theories and just overall our feelings of the story, the series, the characters. So we're going to be breaking down these characters even more over the next few episodes. So if I don't hit your character right now, just wait, okay? Eventually we will talk about all the major characters of Attack on Titan in the next few episodes. But that's enough of that. Let's dive into Attack on Titan, the final chapters, part 1. So obviously we have to start off with the main character himself, which I've done with all of these episodes, and that is Eren. He is really struggling with his plan to kill everyone outside of Paradis. He thinks of himself as a monster. Eren is one of the most complex characters that not only that I've ever read, but I've ever watched in a series or movie or whatever. One of the more complex characters ever written, because he's not this character that just has one motivation. It just seems like he's an onion. Every time you peel back a layer, there's another layer to him. And I legitimately think he is one of the best characters written in any form of media of all time. I think you have to put him in that conversation. Is he a top 5 character of all time? I mean, I don't know about that. But in terms of just everything about him, there's just so many layers to him, and he has to be in that conversation of the best written characters of all time. But he thinks of himself as a monster. He realizes that, yes, this is not the right way to save the world, but he's so conflicted by his hatred of that outside world, which was nothing like he dreamt it would be. I mean, we have seen it from the end of season 3, and we've seen it several times. One of my favorite images of this entire series is him pointing to the outside world when they're standing in the ocean at the end of season 3. That was the moment, that was the pivotal moment for Eren, and that is when he broke away from everyone else. But it's that hatred of the outside world that he never had this thought in his head that there would be so much hatred towards him and his people. Now, you do have to kind of put yourself in his shoes a little bit here and think about it this way. You have dreamt of this world outside of yours. You have thought to get outside of these walls and see what the rest of this world has to offer you. And you finally achieve that dream. And everybody outside of those walls absolutely fucking despises you. And I couldn't imagine just being in that world, having this dream, like I said, of that outside world being just amazing. And then when you get there, it's just a huge pile of shit filled with people that hate you. And I'm not saying that Aaron is right or wrong, but you could absolutely see what led Aaron down this path of the rumbling. Now, everyone sees why Aaron is doing what he's doing. They see from his perspective that he's also struggling and hurting inside, that he is burdened by killing all of humanity. His whole motive here is, in order to hold freedom in my hands, I have to take it away from everyone else. He won't take that away from his friends, though. So yeah, it does sound like deep down he wants his friends to stop him, to kill him. But if they don't, then so be it. The only way he is going to stop is if they in fact kill him. And ultimately you see that he really just is a slave to that desire for freedom. Now, these next few characters, just going to do some quick notes on them. Armin, he acknowledges that he is not a good person throughout this special. He has killed so many people, not just adults or his comrades, but children too. And now he is choosing to betray his own country. So lots of emotions going through Armin. And again, him and Mikasa, who is still holding out hope for Aaron. But in this chapter, she has that BDE, guys. She got that big dick energy for sure. She's more decisive. She's ready to stop Aaron. She understands that this is ultimately what she has to do. Now, obviously, she's not 100% okay with it. She's still going to struggle with it, but she knows that eventually this is where things have to go, regardless if it's programmed in her Ackerman blood or not. But there's a lot of complex emotions going there between Armin and Mikasa, because Aaron is at the center of it and he's been their best friend, and Mikasa, it's her one love. So there's lots of complex emotions just flowing through both of these characters that I will explore a little bit more in the final chapters, part 2. Moving on to Levi, who is finally joining the mix. He was largely gone from like the second half of season 4. So it's good to see him back in action, and he's being the same old dick that he's always been, which is great. Absolutely love Levi. He's never afraid to speak what's on his mind, even if he is missing a couple of his fingers and an eye at this point. But really, Levi has been led down this path of his sole purpose is to kill Zeke. That is the ultimate conclusion of his arc is, I need to kill Zeke. That was my final promise to Commander Irvin. This is what I have to do. This is why I was born. I have to kill Zeke. So love Levi, love his character, and he's always badass. Even with his fingers missing and his eye missing, he's still a fucking badass. And Flock. Oh my gosh. Dude finally fucking dies. He was an aggravatingly good character. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of people hate him, and for good reason. The dude has been a constant Aaron dick rider for all of season 4. It's nice to finally see him get the death that he deserves by Mikasa. I wish he was more than a one note villain. It just seems like he was there just to dick ride Aaron for all of season 4, and that's fine. And you got to have those characters. Not every character can be as complex and as emotional as like Aaron or Mikasa or Hanji or any of these characters. You got to have the one note villain. So yeah, there wasn't much beyond his loyalty to Aaron and the Jaegerists, but in the end, he is the de facto definition of a bitch made boy, through and through bitch made boy. And I am so glad to have finally seen him die in the show. Moving on to one of the best characters in the series. And I know Corey's out there. She's ready. She's like not ready to listen to this section, but she's ready to listen to this section at the same time. And that is Hanji. So I end up watching the specials, and then eventually later I end up watching them again. So I experienced her death twice before I recorded this episode. And her death, while the first time that I watched it, I mean, like the very, very first time that I watched this series, her death did hit me in the feels, but it wasn't like she wasn't like one of my favorite characters. So it was like, oh, damn, that sucks. But these last two times that I have watched all of these specials, and I've really grown attached to all of these characters, her death really hit me in the feels this time around. Such a great character with a noble death. She sacrificed herself so that everyone could escape. And I really love how Hanji tried to give like a Commander Irvin hoorah speech. She said like 5 words to Armin and was all like, okay, that's my speech. Goodbye. And truth be told, it was the perfect ending for her character. She's never been that huge hurrah type of character. So for her to just say goodbye was just perfect to me. And I loved how Hanji got to see her fallen comrades one last time. And in true Hanji fashion, just starts bitching about how much trouble she had to deal with since Irvin died and made her commander. The closure and the completion of Hanji's arc was one of the best in the series for sure. I don't think she wanted to survive. When it's all said and done, you're going through the series. I don't think that she ever had a thought cross her mind that I'm going to live through this. I want to see what's on the other side of this war. She just wanted to be with her comrades in the end so bad and didn't want to live in a world that had so many people killed by Eren. And again, you can hit some of the high notes of Hanji's character in the span of her saying her goodbyes and until her death. She hits all of those high points. Her desire to see the Titans up close, to see her comrades one more time, to save her comrades one last time, and then the hurrah speech, which is so out of character for her, but it's so perfect. This was one of the best deaths. I hate to say it like that, but this was one of the best deaths in any series. Period, and definitely one of the best, most gut wrenching deaths in Attack on Titan for sure. I love Hanji. I really do. She turned out to be one of my favorite characters this second watch through of the series, and especially reading the manga. Can't say enough good things about Hanji. I know in the next few episodes with the review series and diving into some of the more like the theories of the show and all the characters, you can expect a little bit more talk about Hanji for sure. But moving on to Jean, he's really coming to terms with everything that has happened throughout this story. And what I thought was great was he's especially glued to Rhina for most of these next 2 chapters. But you can tell how much he cares for his friends. Even Rhina, who has betrayed him and tried to kill him, among other things. And he's still willing to let all of that go because of the moments that they shared together as cadets. And Jean, another character that on my second watch through, I keep saying that throughout this entire season. Just a little ADD moment here, okay? I keep saying that, and I wonder if people are out there wondering, dude, did you even fucking watch the series the first time? Because it sounded like you didn't like any of these characters. And I think to an extent that's true. And also to another extent, it's like, did I truly grasp everything that this series had to offer the first time that I watched this series? And I don't think I did. I don't think I really gave it its fair shake. Shout out. I remember doing like 2-game episodes and we're talking about this series, and I had binge watched the shit out of this series. And then the final season I caught up to, and I had to watch it week to week. And then the fact that it took 5 years for fucking season 4 to end. So you lose a little bit of who's doing what, and you lose in a little bit of that steam, marching through the series. So I say all of this to say that I don't think you truly understand Attack on Titan until you go through it the second time. And yeah, you're going to pick up on some of the foreshadowing, the hidden details and stuff like that your second watch through, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about once you watch it from point A to point B, the very end, I just think it hits differently rather than binge watching it a little bit and then watching it week to week. Now, one guy that I have not talked about much at all in this deep dive series, I don't think, and I probably will talk about him more in the next episode as well. That is Connie. I didn't talk much about him in the deep dive for season 4, mainly because of just how much I had to break down. So I wanted to kind of shove him to a future episode. Connie, again, going back to that point I just made a couple minutes ago, Connie has really grown on me this second watch through, but more so since the beginning of season 4. They definitely did some different things with him in comparison to the other characters. He really struggles with the fact that he can't save his mom. He almost killed Falco to bring his mom back, and then he killed so many of his comrades that called him a traitor. He struggles with having killed 2 of his friends, and he's just had to deal with a lot emotionally. He just wears his heart on his sleeve. And again, I'm going to break down his character a little bit more in the final chapter, part 2. But as a character, he's the emotional compass, the moral compass for this show, for this series. And he takes a lot to heart. As soon as he's about to kill those 2 friends, they call him a traitor, and he just can't get out of his head that they would say that about him. And he hates the fact that everything has led him to that moment. So he's definitely one of the more emotionally complex characters in a way. It's more in a sense of he just has that emotional core to this series. And I understand. Not many people really talk about Connie in the terms of best characters of Attack on Titan, but you have to put him in that conversation. I think he has to be mentioned at least. He's not a bottom tier character by any means. He's just one of those guys that's just like, damn, dude, I really would like you as a friend. You seem like one of those guys that would do everything not to betray his friends. And he would do everything for you. Like, he's a give you his shirt off his back kind of guy. You just can't help but love Connie through and through. Now, some quick hitters on some of the characters of Marley. Rhina, ready to atone for all of his sins. The dude has been in the trenches for all of season 4, dealing with everything that he has done. Absolutely love his character. Love his character and how he has developed over the series. Absolutely one of my favorite characters in the series for sure. Falco, he's able to see Zeke's memory since he ingested his spinal fluid, and he's able to use bird-like abilities due to the Beast Titan. And really, that's all he's used for in this chapter. He's basically just a means of getting everyone from point A to point B. He's the mode of transportation, so to speak. Annie, though, comes back into the mix. She's completely hopeless at this point. She doesn't see the point in fighting anymore when the rumbling has already destroyed most of Marley. And why bother saving the people that prosecuted her and her people for years? And that's a good fucking point. Like, you can't argue with it. Why would I risk my life for these people that have treated me like garbage, who have just shit all over me for years and years? She just wants to live out her final days in peace, and you can't argue with her logic there. Annie, another good character. We don't really get enough of her in this series, I feel, but what we do get of Annie, I really enjoy her character. And moving on to some miscellaneous thoughts of the final chapters, part 1. And I get it. You're sitting there, you're thinking, well, you kind of skipped over some major characters here. Yeah. Again, I'm going to save that for the next 3 episodes of this deep dive series. We are going to eventually talk about every single character. I promise you. Before the series is done, a character will get his limelight, a part of the series, I promise you. But some miscellaneous thoughts. The beginning of part 1 is a nice look into the psyche of Eren. It shows that struggle with his decision to end humanity, but it also shows his conviction and this complete belief that he was 100% right in ending humanity. And I gotta say, the portion about Hala and Ramsey, truly fucking heartbreaking. These are those 2 kids at the very beginning of chapter 1 where it is just it's so brutal and horrific to see them fear for their lives and they get crushed by the Titans. It is, and I don't think I say this lightly at all, one of the most horrific things that I've seen in this series. It is one of the most just gut wrenching things. Like they did so much in such a short period of time. I mean, just a couple of minutes of making you care for these two characters who you have never seen before. And then they get crushed by the Titans. With them being kids, it gave me an uneasy feeling, and it didn't stop there. We get more panels of people getting crushed and pushed to the end of the cliff, and then everyone falling off into the ocean. Just again, one of the most violent, horrific things, not only in this show or this manga, but just in anything in general. It's just, and while the end of season 4 saw both the characters of Parody and Eldia joining forces and somewhat learning to work together, it finally seems like they all understand each other and that there is really, and this really goes back to those core themes of this series, which is there's a devil in everyone, and you can choose to really push that forward or push it to the background. It's up to you to decide whether that devil comes out. And they realize that they may not be able to forgive themselves, but they can atone for the mistakes that they have made and the people that they have killed along the way. And then one last thing that I want to say just about part 1 in general. This is the calm before the storm. It's all about setting the table for the finale. This is why I said at the very beginning of this episode that initially I was against them breaking up these final chapters into 2 parts. But once you watch both of them, you understand why they broke it up and where they broke it up between the two. But part 1, I love. I love. I mean, I love everything about this show. But part 1 was so fucking good because it's really devoted to exploring the psyche of these characters, how they have dealt with their hatred for one another, how they have done so many terrible things, right or wrong, and they question whether or not they can be redeemed in the end. And that's one of the great things about this series is the fact that it never tells you, hey, this is the right thing to do or this is the wrong thing to do. It gives you the things that people think naturally, organically, how people react in certain situations of war and death. The Holocaust, Nazi Germany comes to mind a lot in this series, but right or wrong, it never tells you that in this series. It gives you everything that these characters go through, and it lets you make those decisions for yourself, which I really appreciate it when a show doesn't force feed you messages and themes that they want you to think along the way. This series has always been about presenting to you real life emotions, real life events transpiring in an animated world, and they're letting you make those decisions on how you feel about the events that happen in this series. But part 1 also explores why Aaron is really doing the rumbling. Well, more so of just expanding on his reasons and confirming them pretty much. But part 1 is also about the horrors of the world ending. The series is built to this moment for years. It's gut-wrenching to see Hanji die, but also seeing children and thousands of people get crushed by the Titans in what is some of the most gruesome scenes in the series. So part 1 really takes a turn like towards the dark side of this series. I know this entire series has been dark and whatnot, but this part really shows you the horrors that is going on in this world and what these characters are going through. It's just one of the best pieces of media that I've ever seen in my life. And part 1, guys, you gotta give it a 10 out of 10. 10 out of fucking 10. Love part 1. I'm excited to talk about part 2. Again, I wanted to break these up because I didn't want to really skip out on anything for time's sake. But make sure you hit that notification bell to let you know when I drop the next part of this Attack on Titan deep dive series. I appreciate y'all joining me for it. This has been a lot of fun diving deep into Attack on Titan for sure. And guys, look, We have several more episodes. We are just hitting the halfway point in this deep dive series. So we are going to be really breaking down Attack on Titan over the next several episodes. So again, make sure you hit that notification bell, like, subscribe. That's really going to help us grow the channel. And with all that being said, I will catch y'all next time on part 2 of the final chapters, the conclusion to the Attack on Titan story we will discuss. So I will catch y'all then. Laters.